Are you really targeting the trade deficit? Because as you look at trade deficit, it actually has not risen with Mexico over the course of NAFTA. The imports and the exports have both increased, but the overall trade deficit hasn't changed much.
Well,
but why are we targeting
really
that?
Not true. Pre-NAFTA, we regularly had a trade surplus with Mexico. Now we regularly have a substantial trade deficit with Mexico. So it's not true that pre-NAFTA and post-NAFTA, there's no change. There's a big change.
So one of your goals is to reduce, if not eliminate, that trade deficit with Mexico.
Absolutely. We think there's no logical reason why one country, namely the U.S., needs to have a trade deficit that roughly equals the combined trade surplus of the rest of the world. It's not our fate in life that we have to absorb all the net exports from everyone else.
In order to get those sorts of concessions out of Mexico, there will have to be some threats, I don't think it's too strong a word, made about tariffs, whether it's border adjustment tax or something else. Could that really disrupt trade overall with Mexico? What does it mean for example, a General Motors?
Well, first of all, I'm not a very threatening figure. So I don't know about the word threat, but the reality is the Mexicans know, the Canadians know, everybody knows times are different. We are going to have new trade relations with people, and they all know they're going to have to make concessions. The only question is what's the magnitude and what's the form of the concessions. I've told the president repeatedly, he's made my job a lot easier by softening up the adverse parties. What could be better than going into a negotiation where the fellow on the other side knows he has to make concessions?
What is the time horizon now? When would you expect the negotiations to begin, and how quickly would you like to get them resolved?
Well, I'd like to get the results tomorrow, but that's not the way that the world works. We're now in the early stages of the TPA process, the Trade Promotion Authority, the so-called fast track. And that process, by its own nature, has a couple of months starting point before anything very serious happens. So you're talking probably the latter part of this year before real negotiations get underway.
So you know from your prior role, as I said, a very successful investor, business really doesn't like uncertainty. When they make investment decisions, they like to know what's happening. Right. There's a lot of urgency on the part of American business and financial markets, for that matter, to get this thing resolved and know what we're dealing with.
Well, they don't have any more sense of urgency than I do, and you're well aware the president has a well-documented sense of urgency as well.
So we're going to get this done as quickly as we can. Do you have a sense at this point of what the major sticking points are likely to be? Do you have targets? For example, rules of origin, environmental restrictions. There have been a list of things that people have suggested should be taken a look at.
Well, there were roughly 20 chapters to the original NAFTA. And there are several chapters that need to be added because of the digital economy and other things that have developed subsequently. So there are myriad points of discussion that will come. Which ones will bear the most fruit is a little bit premature to discuss, but there's a lot of meat to be dealt with.
As you go into these negotiations, how mindful are you of the possibility of what the markets talk about as a trade war, where sanctions would be taken that might escalate, go to WTO, there would be reciprocal sanctions, things like that? How mindful are you of that danger?
Well, we're in a trade war. We've been in a trade war for decades. That's why we have a deficit. The difference is our troops are now coming to the ramparts. That's the only change.
But it sounds like it's going to be a shooting war now.
No, it's not going to be a shooting war. If people know you have the big bazooka, you probably don't have to use it.